Have you ever been playing BeamNG Drive or watching someone play BeamNG Drive and wonder, where do these power lines go? Do these power lines go anywhere at all? Well, I'm davidinark, and in this video we're going to explore where the power lines go and look where the power lines don't even exist. Do you know which maps do not even have power lines? We'll answer that and much more coming up here in BeamNG Drive. Now, when I first started the idea of this, I decided to start with Automation Test Track. And the reason why I wanted to start here was very simple. You see, off in the distance, we have a giant power producing dam. So we've got power lines, we've got an energy producing dam. How does it all tie together? And that is what I wanted to find out. So as we explore, I'm going to start here, which is actually the end of one line. And one of the things I love about what the BeamNG devs did is put in actual termination points. It comes down to a service box, and the service box is right next to the building. So as we come across here from, again, the automation track, I'm just going to follow these lines out as far as they go. Now, this is what I'm going to call just regular power lines. We will see some high capacity power lines in a minute, but I just wanted to see, where do these regular power lines go? All right, so they come up here and they tee off. Now, again, we have a service box that I'm going to presume services this building. We will see in a little bit, you'll see some of the details that the BeamNG devs put in that is very, very realistic and just some cool details. As we come along here, we notice we come to another T, and so that one heads back toward the Automation Test Center. So we'll just go ahead and follow this one back here, and it will probably terminate, yeah, there you go, right next to the building. Again, termination box right beside the building. So let's go back to where this separated, where it teed off here, and we will go down this line and we come to another T. So we have options here. I think our best bet is to head over here to the left, because I'm going to assume that this is going to, there we go, there's some high tension lines right there, as a matter of fact. I'm assuming that this is going to wind its way down the river, but eventually, yeah, there we go. So it eventually ends. All right, so we have just the end of the power line. So far, we've got one end of the power line. The other ends of the power lines that we've seen so far all end at different buildings, so that's not bad, and is, you know, that would be realistic, you know, given we picked an end to start with. So we come across here. Oh, we've got another taper off there. Again, that goes to a box next to the building. So all right, and then we have that building out there. I'm not sure how it gets its power. I don't see how that one gets its power. Okay, we have this one. This goes off here. Oh, and once again, we have a service box, presumably serving that building. All right, so let's go back here and cruise down the line. Again, the lines go off attached to the building. In this particular case, I don't see where this has power at all. Not quite sure. So okay, well, we do have a service box on the side of the building. It just doesn't seem to have a partner box to go with it along the main power line. So I don't know, but use your imagination. And I will tell you, we will be using our imagination a lot in this video. So here we go, cruising down the lines along this back road here. Now we're going off the grid, off the map, heading out. Okay. So that's the end of the line. Okay, so we have found our first pathway of power lines, and they're not connected to anything. So, all right, so let's fly over here. Let's just take a look. If we follow these power lines, okay, and this comes around. Okay, so now let's go back over here. This is where we did not go before. Okay, and that goes off to that place over there, and that will end. So we'll just keep following this around. And all right, so this comes down to this building. I'm not quite sure what that station is. Do we assume that somehow the high-powered lines, I don't know, find their way to this building? I'm not sure. Let's go over here and check out the high power lines. Okay, so the high capacity power lines are coming out of the dam. This makes perfect sense. We come out here and we come around, and okay, they go off that way and they continue this way. Let's just, for the sake of argument, follow these down around here. They will eventually cross over top of the ones we saw before. So we travel down along this way and follow these along the river out here on the other side of the river, and we are cruising toward what I can only assume is going to be the end of the map. Much like we saw with the regular power lines. Well, as a matter of fact, there we go. And we've ended. Okay. Just, you know, unceremoniously, boom, the power lines stop. Okay, so let's head back over to the dam where the high capacity wires did a split. And we will follow the split around. That should be coming up right here. Okay. So let's follow this down here. All right. And oh, it just goes this way. Okay. So we're going to go across here. Once again, I don't see. Okay, wait. This is going back to the dam. Why would you have a loop come out of the dam and go back into the dam? Is that a thing? Does that make sense? Is this like, I mean, it can't be redundancy. They both can't be flowing the same direction. You'd have an issue where you have all the power coming out and either colliding, or you're creating a, I don't know, an electronic tornado. I don't know how that works. Okay, so the issue that we have then, of course, is that the high tension lines do not seem to connect to the regular power grid. All right, here we go. Let's move on to East Coast USA, and we are at a gas station out here. And so I say we just hop on this line and see where it goes. So as we cruise down here, I'm purposely leaving the vehicle back there so that we can quickly get to it. And I'm also going to speed through some of this. I apologize for it being herky-jerky as we kind of go through this, and I will probably try to speed some of this up. But as we cruise along this highway, we're going to see if this direction of East Coast USA from that particular gas station is going to net us some kind of a starting point or ending point. So one of two things basically is going to happen at this, right? So we're either going to come to an end like we saw on the automation test track where the light poles just, or the power poles just end, or we're going to end up at, I don't know, maybe some kind of a substation or a power plant. To be perfectly honest, I don't remember there being any kind of power plant on East Coast USA. As a matter of fact, other than the dam on automation, and I think there's a substation on West Coast USA, I don't know that any of the other maps have any kind of a power plant. I don't know. We'll definitely be checking that out. But as we continue to go down this path here, this road, we have the power lines just cruising along the side of the road. I will say this is by far, the longest. Sorry, I weirdly thought things ended right there. Okay, anyway, my eyes playing tricks on me. This is by far the longest set of power lines that we've had so far. I mean, granted, we've only done one map, but you know, hey, we're moving along. We're playing the game. We're trying to see where these power lines go. So, what is your guess? Let me know down in the comments. Just start out, you know, East Coast, and where do you think this first set of power lines is going to end? I have no idea. What would be kind of cool is if the power lines ended up making a full loop or something. So fire station back there, I don't know how it gets its power. No idea. Osmosis, by sitting next to the power lines. Okay, all right, now here we go. So now we have power lines that shoot off, and they will come down this direction. And as we come, oh, this is so cool. Okay, this is a detail that is very cool. Look at this. So we have power that comes from the power line to a service box on the side of the building. Oh, that is so cool. Look at that. Okay, that is an amazing detail. That really is. That is such a cool detail for the devs to put in. Did they have to hardwire the houses on this map? No, we'd be cruising around. We're perfectly fine with it. As a matter of fact, we've already seen a lot of buildings that don't have direct service, and yet they opted to connect service from the power lines to the sides of the building directly. That is very, very cool. Oh my gosh, that is so cool. So much fun. Holy cow. Okay. So okay, so they don't connect everywhere. So not everyone is getting service wires. Now, some of it makes sense. Like if you have a service wire that goes to like one building in a cluster, then it makes sense that they'll have some kind of an internal power system between the buildings. So you don't have to run a separate power line to every single building in a cluster. But that is interesting. Not every building has one. Okay, so that goes back down there. So we come here. And we're going to come across here. Oh, yep. Okay. Wait. Oh, that's okay. So we have the power pole here, and then we got lights and a power pole over here. They're not connected. So when this one comes around, it should connect itself back over here. Yep, back to the right, and then right here. Wait, no. Oh, over here. Okay, here we go. Yeah, that is so cool. And that is exactly right. I mean, I'm not a power expert by any stretch. I'm not an electrician, none of that stuff. But just thinking logically here, I think that is awesome that they took the opportunity, they took the time to go down the side street and make sure that those folks have power that is not looped on. Now, it is a little curious why they chose that direction to go there and not from, you know, where we stopped and then there's the gap. They could have just gone down that way and around and stopped there, but they didn't. They chose to come out. I don't know. Very interesting. In the meantime, we will continue down this path here. Okay, wait, is this going just like through the trees? Nope, not through the trees. Okay, what is happening here? Wait, where's the pole? Wait, I lost the power pole. Excuse me, I'll be with you in just a moment. Here we go. Ah, okay. So the wires here just simply go underground and disappear. Okay, so that is definitely the end of that line. So let's jump over here and cruise back down the other way. Wait a minute. So it actually does make a loop. Because this is where I was. How did I not see that? How did I miss that when I was coming around? Okay, I don't know, to be perfectly honest with you. So anyway, moving along, let's go find some more. I'm going to find some more population. So let's go to some more populous areas here. Okay, so here. All right, we've got the wood, the lumber yard here. And does it have, okay, so it's got power lines running beside it. So if we run out here, okay, back here, is that a start? So yeah, this just automatically starts right here. It's not connected to anything. No idea how or why. Okay, so theoretically then, that is actually the end of that run. Okay, so we're at the end, and we are moving back toward the lumber yard as we cruise along these power lines here. These are the details that make so much difference. I know it's in the scheme of things, probably, you know, a very minor thing to have in the game, but at the same time, it adds to the realism, and they are very much needed in the game. However, I don't see how the lumberyard is getting power. There are no poles that go that direction. So once again, I don't know, maybe they run it underground. I don't know. And I have no idea what the game cost overhead is of having these power lines. So the reason why I bring that up is because I wonder if it's possible either in future releases or with mods that we can, you know, kind of extend the power grid and have it reach the places where it currently doesn't reach. I don't know. Somebody interested in doing a power grid mod? Probably not. But you know what? Hey, it popped in my head. It might pop in somebody else's head, or it might be in your head now rattling around. You're like, you know, I think that'd be a fun mod to try. I have no idea. So what I'll tell you what I do wish, though. I wish the mod system was a little more modular, in that, you know, like a lot of games, you can have multiple mods and they don't necessarily interfere with each other. In this particular case, I don't think that's something I don't think you could just add power poles, because there's not a way to have those mapped out without it, you know, actually affecting the whole system. So I don't know. And I could also be talking outside of my head, and that's not the way modding works in other games at all. So there you go. In the meantime, let's just keep cruising down here, and no power lines down there. We'll just keep heading this direction. All right, so we're coming up on this bridge. Oh, no, okay. So the power lines are going to run beside the bridge. That works. I really figured they were going to end and then pick up on the other side, and you'd have to just, like, again, use your imagination as to how they work. Okay, well, that's the end of that line. All right. Okay, so we followed 2 complete lines. We have this house out here in the middle of the field, and no idea how it gets its power. Although it kind of looks abandoned, so I don't know, maybe it doesn't need power anyway. In any case, let's head over here, and there is a village, right? Yeah, the fishing village. So let's see. Okay, well, we do have, all right, so we've got power at the fishing village. It runs alongside the road, but I'm not seeing, so far, I'm not seeing power actually running into the village. Yeah, it looks like it's just running alongside. So how does the village actually get power? I don't know. But it does not appear to be coming from these power poles. Yeah, it's just, yeah, there's no there are no power poles out here for these buildings to get power. Again, I know I feel like I'm being very pedantic about this, but the purpose of this video is to figure out, where do the power lines go and where do they not go. So as we have seen, there's an extensive power line grid network. Well, it's not really even a grid network. It's like a series of runs that don't necessarily connect to each other, and they certainly don't seem to have an actual starting power source. So I don't know. I'm a little curious as to how, if this is something that the devs think about. Is it something they don't think about? Who knows? Is this only something that Dave comes up with? Probably so. But we are cruising along here, East Coast, USA, and as we follow the power poles and the power lines, we cruise down here. Again, there was a road off to the left, but no lines running down that road. It seems weird to me that we would have power lines in some places along some roads where there doesn't seem to be any. I mean, there's no reason to have power out here, right? There are no houses, there's no structures, and yet, for the sake of realism, frankly, there are power poles out here, but they just don't go. Aha. Okay, so this one ends at the bridge, and then is there power on the other side of the bridge? No. So, okay. So, power comes up to the end of the bridge, and that is the end of that. And just taking a quick flyover, let's just see if we pick up any other power systems. I don't think so. I'm going to go on a limb and say that's probably the extent of the power grid for East Coast USA. You just never know, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't even make sense why there'd be power all the way out here after I just talked about how it doesn't make sense where there is certain power runs. Okay, so this is the other gas station, and we have no power here either. Okay, so I believe we have exhausted the power line layout for East Coast USA, so let's move on. That brings us to the Demolition Derby Arenas map, I think is what it's called, and there are no power poles anywhere around here. I mean, there's not power at all. So we have encountered our first map with no power whatsoever. Up next, we have the ETK Driving Experience. So let's let's fly around here. Now, this is an interesting layout because it does have the giant wind turbines, which presumably are generating power. So we are, again, presumably getting power from the wind turbines. The question is, how is that power being distributed to, say, the street lights and to the main building and anywhere else that, lights might be needed? Where is this coming from? Where's it going to, rather? And then we've got a giant solar farm here. So we've got wind turbines and a solar farm with no visible wiring whatsoever. Now, does this fall into the no power line group or the power group? And I'm going to argue that it is going to fall into the power group, because we do have the wind turbines, we do have the solar farm, we do have a castle, I don't know what it has to do with anything, but sure. We have a castle on a hill. And we're just going to say that the power runs underground, that when they built this facility, they ran everything underground, and that's how everything gets its power. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right, next we have the Hirochi Raceway, and let's see if we can find any power lines at the Hirochi Raceway. Now, I think, let's see, let's go out here. Okay, well, we've got some construction. Okay, now we do have some power lines. Oh, no, we have power poles, but they do not have lines run to them. Now, that is a very cool detail from the devs, to have the poles ready, but not have any lines run to them. So, let's take a look here. Okay. So we do have, so we do have some lines that reach to that construction area. So we're going to call that, I don't know, whatever, the end, the start, whatever you want to call it. And let's just follow these along the road here. I got to say, one of the things that I love about the way the devs laid out these power lines is that they don't just simply follow the curve of the road, right? I mean, you have lines that are crossing over roads. Back there, we even had lines that ran above the road, you know, right in line with it, parallel. I mean, just very, very cool stuff. So we continue to head down this way, and we get to these power poles, these lines over here. Continue around this way. So it's very cool to see that at the Hirochi Raceway we do have, again, at least some pathway of power. How it's getting power to those poles, we have no idea. It's just a segment of power lines, I don't know, that go from one end to another with no real discernible source. That is ultimately the question. Ultimately, the question that we have for BeamNG is, what is the source of power for the maps that have no source of power? I think there is some dev lore going on here. There's a story, there's a mystery to be unlocked as we travel down a different set of power poles with lines attached to them, winding along this road here. This is different, right? This isn't the way I came before, right? I don't think so. It looks all the same. Okay, here's the thing. It's not crossing over the road. The other way was crossing over the road a lot. This doesn't seem to be at all. So, oh, I love how some of the poles are leaning. That's very cool. That's a great small detail, because if you've seen power poles, you know they lean. They got some serious lean in some cases. As a matter of fact, the power pole sitting next to our house, it actually, a storm had come through, and if I remember correctly, a tree fell on the power lines themselves that run between our house and our neighbor's house. And when the tree fell on the lines, it pulled, I'll get there. It pulled our pole almost, not almost out of the ground. They are deep enough in the ground. It's not coming out of the ground, but major leanage. Let's put it that way. And so when the power company came back out, or came out, got rid of the tree, they fixed everything up. What they did not do was, reset the pole. They were like, oh, no, it'll be fine. Like, you do realize it's leaning at a pretty significant angle. And they're like, yeah, it'll be fine. So, okay. I just live here, man. So hopefully the power pole will do exactly what they say it will and not fall over. Anyway, I digress as we continue our travels through the Hirochi Raceway and down the power lines that are now running beside the racetrack over to the left. And so we continue to go down this way, and they end right here. So once again, a couple of sets of power lines, but there's no source. There's nothing connecting the power lines to any kind of source. So, but at least there are power lines on the Hirochi Raceway. That brings us to the industrial site. And we start off right here with lines connected to this building. So, and I love that the connections to these buildings are different. They're much more industrial. In fact, even the poles are different. Look at that. Very cool. So then it comes out and connects to this building. Wait a minute. That's it. It doesn't go anywhere else. Okay. I don't even know what to make of that. All right, let's go look for some more power. That'd be hilarious if that was the only power that is on this entire map. It's just those. Okay, wait, we got more. Here we go. So we have power to this building, power that goes back over there, power to these buildings. Okay. This is coming out down the road here. All right, so at least we have another leg. Let's see if this goes to any kind of power source, or for that matter, nope, into the ground. Okay. And then, oh, wait. What? Oh, there's a pole knocked down. That is cool. I mean, I guess that means they don't have actual power since their pole got knocked down, but that's very cool. Okay, that's pretty neat. All right, so this is an offshoot off of that direction, and then that one continues to go there. I do like the fact that we've also seen, not only have we seen different connections to the buildings, but and now we have seen where, you know, these lines are not mounted horizontal, they're kind of vertical. So I reset the car back there because I'm not sure where this goes, and I want to be able to get back to the split point quickly. And I think that's going to be something we employ throughout the maps, throughout the video as we continue. So again, we have connections. They come down here. Once again, we have the offshoots going to the buildings. Such a cool detail. I wish they did that everywhere. I really do. This is interesting. We have two separate lines. Multiple. Okay, we got multiple separate lines running to this one building. All right, so there we go. Okay, so let's go back and find our car. And this time we will. So we came from there. We went out that way, so let's go around this direction, follow this down here to see where this goes. I also like the fact that we have different gauges of wires, and if you're not familiar, the gauge is basically the thickness of the wire that we've got. So we have different gauges of wiring. Okay, I'm assuming, yeah, that's going to end and then pick up on the other side of that little bridge tunnel contraption thing. Sure. Why not? I mean, you definitely don't want the wire running through it. That's for dang skippy. Especially if you're going to be running your car through there. But we will continue down this path. We see offshoots going into these different kind of facility locations. And now, okay, we're cruising along this way. Once again, I'm looking for some kind of a power source. Okay, those go down that way. All right, I think we're gonna drop our car here. And that way we can make sure that we come back here. So let's go down this direction. See how far this takes us and what it leads us to. Yeah, it's crazy to me also that they actually switch between the different style layouts of wiring. Like, it'll be horizontal and then it's vertical and then it's horizontal again. It's so cool. It's just a small, neat little detail. Oh, wait. Okay. Would we consider this to be a substation? Now, to me, this looks like it's a natural gas facility or something. But for the sake of argument, could we say that this is that this is a substation? Somehow we're converting the natural gas to electricity? I don't know. What do you think down in the comments? Let me know. We got a long way to go. A lot of maps to cover. Lots of stuff still coming up. Once again, I pose the question, how many maps do you think do not have power at all? I know the answer. I've been through this. As a matter of fact, one of the maps that I'm not even going to bother to pull up, there's a couple. One is Cliff. There's no point in pulling up the Cliff map. It's not got power. There's no point in pulling up the small grid map. It doesn't have anything, let alone power. And then I'm also going to not pull up grid map version 2 because I'm pretty sure there is no power on that map. As we skirt out here to the end of the map, there's no point in dropping a car here because I had a pretty good idea that that's where that was going to go. And honestly, I think by the time we get down to the end of this lane, we may be in a similar situation. I don't really recall how far out this goes. That is a nice long stretch of road. Why are we not racing on that road? I'm gonna have to do that in the game some, because yeah. Cruising along here as we continue down this road with all of these power poles. And again, kind of like East Coast, I don't mind that there are power poles along the road. I mean, that's very realistic. I don't understand why some of them are where they are, just because it doesn't seem to be anything out here, although over to the right there is definitely a structure. So does this service that? No, it doesn't service that at all. Okay, now we have barriers on the road, blockades, and so this should, for all intents and purposes, take us out to the end of the map on this direction, and we have no more power. So once again, we have a vast map. Well, it's not a vast map. It's actually a smaller map, but we've got the map. We have these potential power source with the natural gas thing going on. Hard to say. So I don't know. What are your thoughts for the industrial site? But it's definitely got power lines, so it has power, even if we don't know the source for sure. That brings us to Italy. Now, one of the cool things about Italy is that the buildings are textured with connectivity points. So they've got, many of the buildings anyway, they do have electrical connection indicators along the side of the buildings. But I don't see any power anywhere. And I have no idea what Italy does in terms of power distribution. So this may be very realistic in terms of they don't have power poles everywhere. Maybe some, I don't know, they have a substation somewhere and everything's run underground. I don't know. I should probably Google that just out of curiosity. But as you can see, so far we have 0 power lines along any of the roads. We got the gas station has no power. If we come down here, we will check this out down here. So again, we have these houses and there's no power. So I'm not quite sure how the Italians in BeamNG get any of the electricity that runs their little beautiful cities here. However, they don't have power lines. So Italy is a map with no power lines as well. So we're building up our list of maps with no visible power mechanism. Huh? I say we just move on. And the next map that we're going to jump into is Johnson Valley, and it is infamous for its power poles because you can crash into power poles all day long on this map. So we're going to start off at the one end of the map where we're actually technically off grid here, and we're just going to follow this power line all the way along the road until the other end. One thing about Johnson Valley is that although it is one of, if not the largest map in regular vanilla BeamNG, I don't believe it has any type of power plant mechanism in place. Sure, we've got poles with wires, but there is no power. And also what's really weird is we have this long stretch of road with these power poles and these power lines, and it really begs the question, why? Why have this giant long stretch of power poles with wires? Now as we come up across here, we've got some structures, and this one has the lines that run off into the distance to the structure. So at least there is that, right? So we've got some realism in terms of the power layout for that particular structure. Now we're coming up to the racing area, and I don't see any power going into the campsite. So how do the campers get their power? Are they all running generators? Maybe so. But it just seems to me it would make sense to at least run some power in there so that people could plug their stuff into the system. All right, we have the gas station, and yes, we have power that runs out to here, and again we have the connection to the building itself with a service box. Again, that is such a detail that is so cool. I really wish all of the maps had power poles with power and had those connections as appropriate as needed. Again, if you've got a cluster of buildings, you don't need necessarily an access point on every single building, because theoretically the power would run between the buildings themselves. You don't have to power each individual thing, each individual building with its separate connection. But we go to the other end of Johnson Valley, and we end at a pole. So once again, end to end, couple of offshoots, zero power source. What is happening in BeamNG Drive? Inquiring minds want to know. Okay, Dave wants to know. Next on the list, Jungle Rock Island. Now, we looked at the industrial site map, and it had power running all over the place. I don't recall if Jungle Rock Island has any power at all. There was no power down there at the shipyard, the dockyard, whatever you want to call it, freight yard. And I just don't remember there being any power lines in Jungle Rock Island. So again, pardon my speed bursts here, but I'm just I'm exploring, I'm thinking, just trying to get an idea where some power might be, but there's not going to be power. I just don't believe there is any power on Jungle Rock Island. So we're going to add Jungle Rock Island to the list of maps with no power at all. Not even where you would think they would need it most, down in the shipyard. But you know what? Hey, what do I know? I'm just a YouTuber. That brings us to Small Island, USA. And we will see what we have here. We have lights. We have a dock. We got shipping crates. We got buildings. We even have a tiny little lighthouse. None of which has any type of, at least external, power to the system. And this should be pretty quick and easy. Is there power? Nope, that's a windsock for the helipad. But no, we have no power. And this should be pretty straightforward. I mean, this is just honestly flying along the map and just taking a look. Lucky for us, there's not a lot of vegetation on this map, so it's going to be pretty easy to spot if it's got a power line sticking out. Like the bird sanctuary. No, or whatever that is, conservatory or whatever. Anyway, No power there. Let's go up to the top here. No power here, not even to the radio tower on the tip top of the hill. So, Small Island, USA, also on the list of maps with no visible power lines anywhere.
Let's take a look at Utah. See if Utah's got any power lines at all. Definitely not along the highway here. So as we take a quick perusal down the long stretch of road, and we're just going to do a little bit of flyover, a flyby. I don't think Utah has any power. I don't recall Utah having any power systems in place, or at least I don't remember seeing any poles. We don't see any along these roads, although we do have businesses that, presumably have power so that they can have, gas running. They can operate their air-powered repair machines, all the good stuff. But at the end of the day, the Utah map does not have any visible power systems in place. So add this one to the list of maps without visible power, and we'll see what the tally is at the end of the day. This brings us to West Coast, USA, and we've definitely got power here. We've got the high capacity, high tension lines, and here's a starting point of 1. So we'll follow this along and see where this goes. All right, so we also have power poles alongside. Are there lines? I don't see lines. There's just the poles. So once again, we have a map that has power poles with no lines running from pole to pole. I'm very curious if the devs are planning to run lines. I'm not even sure how that works. I've never delved into what power lines look like in the map in terms of map building, map making. That's definitely something else we need to look at, is how to add power lines to maps. So once again, that would be a fun feature to be able to do. In the meantime, we are traveling along. We come up to an intersection of power lines. Okay, that ends there. I was going to say we're going to follow this one out to the end of the map. No, we won't. That's as far as that one goes. All right, so we will run along here. And I was thinking that there were power lines that went. So so we have structures that are not connected. Yeah, all right. Okay, well, that's interesting. Huh. Yeah, you could literally just run wires from the one to the other. Why is that not a thing? Am I missing something here? I feel like I'm missing something. Am I being punked? I feel like I'm being punked. Well, okay. In any case, we do have... Okay, so we've got this. No, and that's going to run into the city. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. We'll just follow these lines. Mapping these out is very confusing. But we've got these, so we will cruise down here. Wait, what? Okay. High tension wires that just run along here and end. So let's delve over here and let's see where these ones go. All right, into the industrial area. Okay, so we do have power poles with lines next to these. I suppose we could assume that there is some kind of a handoff in this little building, maybe? I don't know. Once again, we've got to use our imagination when it comes to power poles and how power is manipulated in BeamNG. I just wanted to take another look. So what's interesting is the power lines, the poles, do have the underground conduit. Yeah, that's it. There's just... Okay. I don't know what to tell you. We're all along for the ride, and so we'll just take that ride. All right, so if we come out here... Oh, wait a minute. We got some power lines here. Let's see what we got. All right, we got some out this way. So, come back here near the oil rigs. And, all right, so this is... Nope. I would tell you, depending on how your graphics are set up, it's also a little hard to follow the wires, because, or maybe it's just my old eyes, but sometimes the wires blend into the background and I don't see where they go. All right, so starting point, cruising along these particular power poles, we will see where they go out along the oil rigs. And cruising down here beside the water tower. And again, we cross over this intersection, or street really. It's not really at the intersection, but cross over this street. And we continue to come down this way. Now, is there an offshoot up here? Nope. We see these high tension wires above us. And we'll just keep... You know what? Let's go ahead and run these out. I'm curious. Okay, so... all right, so we have what I would consider a substation in West Coast, USA. All right, and we are servicing power out through these lines. So then the question is, where does this go? As we continue to follow the flow out in this direction, running alongside the city services. Wait, that just ends right there? I'm so confused. Now, as we've seen in other maps, and again, you know, using our imagination and knowing what little I know about citywide electricity, I was going to say I wouldn't anticipate having poles along, but I forgot. Yeah, there are poles along the city streets in the West Coast, USA. All right. Wow, look at there. We got lots of wires tied up on that one. That is a lot of electrical traffic coming this direction. And then these go all over the place. So we've come to a massive intersection. We can come down here, and this will take us down to this main road here, across and back that direction. But we also cross here and can go out this way. And I'm going to assume... Okay, well, no, we're going out here. All right. Actually, this is a pretty nicely laid out network of wiring here. All right, it's going to end here. And doesn't seem to pick up anywhere else. Again, I don't know. I'm very curious. I wonder what the logic and reasoning is behind where these power poles are laid out, how they're interconnected, why certain places have power poles and others don't. As I mentioned before, I don't know how resource heavy. Well, and again, we come to an end. Power pole with underground service, and it does make sense. I mean, it makes sense to me that we would have power along certain strips, and then be able to piggyback that power from place to place. But then you have, whole intersections up here where there's nothing. I mean, there's nothing to indicate that there would be any kind of service whatsoever. And so I'm very curious. And then this appears to be the high wires, or the electric wires for a cable car system. I mean, that's how these are laid out in that parallel, going down this way, but they don't run along where the actual track is. So I don't know what's going on, what is happening. Maybe the BeamNG devs are just having a laugh, and they're just like, who in their right mind? No one's going to pay attention to this. Nobody cares. Just throw some in there to make it look like we got stuff going on, and leave it to Dave to come along and question, wonder, follow the path to, I don't know, nowhere really. But we did find a substation in West Coast USA, so at least we have something that is delivering power, not necessarily generating the power, excuse me, but certainly it is a point of distribution. Let's put it that way. Excuse me. All right, so coming back up the hill, we've got power poles along the way, and once again, yep, just kind of end. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think? So in the meantime, as we are cruising down here, I did want to quickly rattle off the maps that do not have power. You may be surprised. You may not. Cliff, of course, we've talked about. Cliff has no power. The Derby arenas have no power. Look at here. We've got the island on the other side of the West Coast. Don't know how it gets its power over here, but there are some high wires here, some high traffic, high voltage, whatever you want to call them, high capacity wiring along the industry here. Not sure how the industry actually gets the power from that, but sure, why not? But we have Cliff, Derby Arenas, Italy, Jungle Rock Island, Small Island, USA, Utah, Simple Grid Map, and Grid Map V2. None of those have visible power systems in place. In terms of the maps that do have power of some kind on the map, of course, we've seen the Automation Test Track, East Coast USA, Hirochi Raceway, Industrial Site, Johnson Valley, West Coast USA, and then the ETK Driving Experience is kind of in that zone where it does have power. We've got the wind turbines, we've got the solar power. We just don't know how the power is distributed. So there you go. A fun little journey along BeamNG Drive's power grid system. Where do they come from? Where do they go? There's only one person that we know has the answer, and that would be Cotton Eye Joe. I'm davidinark. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this little journey into a look at power grids in BeamNG Drive. Thanks so much to Hero of God, GamerGull, and LosWilko for supporting the channel on Patreon. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.